Okay, so today I'm going to show you how, I'm going to kind of look at that way so I'm not like ignoring you. I'm going to show you how to make pie dough. So the first thing you're going to do, and this is what you're going to do today for your mise en place, is to measure out all your ingredients. You, by weight, are going to measure out, make sure I got it right, 350 grams of flour. So remember how to measure on a digital scale? Put the bowl in the scale, tear it off so that it reads 0, then you start filling it in. 350 grams. You might want to get a piece of paper because I don't have any recipes. Go get a piece of paper, write it down. Now the reason we are measuring them by weight is because if I was to send you over there and say, you need 2.5 cups of flour, every single one of you will measure your flour differently. Your dough will be dry, some will be too wet because you didn't have enough flour. So by doing weight, it is accurate. And whenever we bake, it's really important to be accurate because there's a lot of science going on in baking. So 350 grams of all-purpose flour. You're going to need 4 grams of salt, 14 grams of white granulated sugar, and you will need 1 cup or 2 sticks of butter, and you want to dice them into 1-inch cubes, just like that. Put them on a plate, pop them in the freezer, because we want them to be nice and cold while we get our last couple. Ice water. And you're going to need somewhere between 1/4 cup to 1/2 cup. We're not going to just dump all the ice water in there. We're going to add it when we need it. So just keep that in mind. You will probably not need 1/2 cup. So I like to measure 1/2 cup and just dump the rest. Now, what you're going to do today is you're going to do your mise en place. You guys are going to mise en place all your ingredients, all of your dry ingredients, your flour, your sugar, and your salt. You're going to put your name on the baggie, dump it all in here, and we can just shake it up in here. That way, because I don't have 30 bowls. So we're going to all put them in here, close it, and it'll be ready for you for Monday. Your butter, you are going to dice your butter today. You're going to put them in the plate, cover them, and then we're going to stack them in the white refrigerator over there. Make sure you have your name on the plate. You don't have to freeze that yet. But let's just pretend like we are on Monday. You have all your mise en place done. You're going to get yourself a bowl. You're going to pour all your ingredients from this baggie, this big bag of flour, sugar, and salt. It's going to go right into the bowl. Once you pour that into the bowl, you're pretty much halfway done. You are now going to go get your butter out of the freezer and your water. So you're going to come over here and I'm going to tell you what to do, but you're going to actually do it. So I have one of my chefs from Pro Start. She's going to be my helper today. So we have our flour, our salt, and our sugar. We have our cubed butter. That's pretty nice and cold. Now, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to cut in our fat. Some recipes have you use shortening. Some recipes have you use butter. They're all fat. Same concept for each of them. There's 3 ways to do it, and I'm going to show you the 3 ways. The first way is with this. This is a pastry blender. You might have, your grandma might have one in her kitchen. All you do is when we get our butter in there, is you just start cutting it like this. What I don't like about that is that butter gets stuck in there, and you have to constantly clean it out. But she'll show you how to use that in a little bit. Another way is to literally cut in the fat. Cut it in with a knife. Takes a lot longer. Not my favorite thing to do because it does take a lot longer, and the longer that butter sits out at room temperature, the softer it's going to get. So she won't show you that one, but I just wanted to tell you about that one. So what we're going to do is I'm going to have you dump all the butter into there. And you're going to use the pastry blender. And you're just going to kind of chop through that butter. What you're trying to do is you're trying to chop the butter to smaller pieces, but you're also trying to get that flour and that butter to kind of coat each other. Now lift it up. See how messy that is? We're going to want to kind of scrape it with your finger. Don't, because it's a dull knife, but it is a knife in there. So you just regularly have to stop and kind of scrape it. I'm going to show you, or she's going to show you, my favorite way of cutting in butter. This way is faster and it's less messy. You know, your hands don't get dirty, but you don't get to feel that butter. So what I like to do is I like to get some flour in my hands, kind of coat my hands, and I like to squeeze the butter between my fingers. And now, this is what I yell at my 8th graders. I yell at everyone, don't molest the dough. Don't sit there and molest the dough like this. You're not doing anything but getting it hot. It goes through your fingers really quickly, just like that. What you want is these little teeny flakes. See, that's a butter flake. And when you roll that out, you're gonna have a nice little flaky pie dough. So you can, don't molest the dough. Get in there, squeeze it like money, money, money. So these are the little flakes of butter that we want to try to get. All right, how are we looking? It's looking really good. Got a couple of big ones here, so just kind of get those big chunks out because they'll be hard to roll out. That looks good. So the next step, once we get all our butter flaked, is we're going to incorporate our water. And I like to go a couple tablespoons at a time. What you're just trying to do is just trying to get all of that dough like wet sand. And at this point, you can go grab yourself a spatula to kind of stir it. So Lucas, can you go get us a spatula, please? So on Tuesday, this will be, actually no, you'll still do this on Monday. Thank you. You're good, you go wash your hands. I know it feels weird. Yeah. So what we're gonna do is just kind of stir that water into that flour, and we're looking for wet sand. And you're gonna actually pick it up, squeeze it together. If it stays together, you're there. If it falls apart like that, you'll need a little bit more liquid. Now the reason we don't give you a specific amount of water is because depending on the day, if it's raining outside, you're going to have more moisture in the air, and you're not going to need as much. If you live in Arizona, well, it's dry and humid, you're going to need more water. Use that towel right there. Almost there. Now the reason I'm not using my hands to kind of mix this dough is because, again, your hands are hot. Your body has a temperature that will melt butter. So I'm trying to not touch the dough as much as possible because I am going to have to knead it in a little bit. I'll try to keep my butter cold. Almost there. We're getting there. Say one more application, we should be good. The next step is to find yourself a station, like a little station, and you're going to knead it into a disc, a hockey puck. We don't want a softball because it makes for a very hard dough to unroll. You're going to unroll it on Tuesday, and then you're going to fill your pie on Tuesday. And if we pull it out of the refrigerator and it's a ball, it's going to be really hard to roll that into a pie dough. So by doing this little step of making it into like a hockey puck, you've gotten that circle already, so then you're just kind of flattening it a little bit more. So now I'm pretty good. So I'm going to pull this onto my surface. And I'm going to do a quick knead. I might need to add a little bit more flour or a little bit more water because it is still kind of dry. Yeah. So if you do need a little bit of water, kind of give yourself a little volcano. Pour it in there. Close that volcano. And as you knead, that water is going to come on the outside. Make sure we get all of those butter chunks in there because that's going to be so good. So each of these dough balls will make 2 pie doughs. Now for this pie that we're going to do, pumpkin pie, we only need 1. So you're going to find a partner and you're going to measure out your dough together and you're going to cut it in half. All right. Got our dough all together. Cut it in half. Now we get that hockey puck. Just like that. Again, we don't want it like that because then it'll be really hard. Just start that smushing process, start that process. Your dough in that bag and it's going to go in the refrigerator till Tuesday. And Tuesday you're going to roll it out. Any questions? Find a partner and start mise-en-place your dough. So now I'm going to roll out our dough. So by letting your dough rest in the refrigerator for at least 30 minutes to an hour, your dough relaxes and it looks completely different. It's more smoother, everything just looks a lot better than when you put it in. So you really do need to make sure that you allow your dough to relax. So at least an hour. I have my kids doing it a day ahead, so I usually take their dough out, say about an hour for a class so that it can kind of come to room temperature, because you don't want to try to roll this out while it's rock hard and it will break and fall apart. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to roll out your dough. So the first thing I need to do is I need to get my mise-en-place for this. And I like to roll my dough out on a Silpat. You can definitely use parchment paper, just 2 lines of parchment paper. You can use wax paper as well, but what this does, it keeps it from non-sticking. My counters, even though they are stainless steel, they do get kind of sticky. And because of the dough, it will cause the dough to stick to the counter a little bit more. At least I have a little bit more assurance with this. Now I'm actually going to go get something else to show you because I absolutely love using this. I don't use this in class because my kids, I only have 2. And so I can't really allow the kids to do it. But one of the things I have invested in is go to a cabinet store, ask for remnants marble slabs, pop it in the freezer, and you have this cold slab that you can roll your pie dough on. It's amazing. It just allows your dough to stay at a cold temperature and it will be less sticky. But again, like I said, my students don't have this, so I'm not going to show you this, although I'm kind of sad because I really want to use it. But you just take that, flour that, roll that out. You want to keep moving it just like you would do here, but for the sake of my class, I'll put that away. But my cabinet's not cold. Another way, if you don't have a marble slab, you can take sheet tray, put them in the freezer so you got that cold surface. Anything to keep your counters cold. So I also have a little bit of flour, all-purpose flour, and I have a rolling pin. This is a French rolling pin. I love them better than the little ones with the little hand, corn, and the cob holders, I guess, because the kids like to roll it that way, and you get better traction if you use weight. All right, so I'm going to sprinkle a little bit of flour onto my counter. At this point, you don't want too much flour because you don't want your pie dough to be too dry. But you don't want too little that it starts to stick. We can always add more flour if we have to. A little bit of flour on top. I take my second Silpat or your second parchment piece of paper, and you're just gonna roll away from you. One of the things I teach my kids is don't sit there and roll it like this, because what you're gonna get is you're gonna get an uneven pie dough. Lift it, lift your dough, turn your dough 90 degrees. This keeps you aware of how sticky that dough is getting. If you just sit there and roll it, you're gonna end up with it's stuck to your counter. You have to lift it up and you have to check on it. Roll it away from you. And it's getting kind of sticky, so you're being proactive at this point by adding that flour before it starts to stick too much. Roll away from you. One of my pet peeves is I will tell my kids how to roll out pie dough just like this, and inevitably they'll just sit there and roll it like this for like 20 minutes, and I said, check your dough because it's gonna stick. You need to lift it. I know. That's their response is, I know. Well, apparently you don't know, because now you have paste. Beautiful dough. This is a gorgeous dough. Now, my pie pan is one of the small 8-inch ones, which I know, using this as a guide, I want to try to get my ends about the size of the Silpat. But you want to go about 1 inch or 2 inches beyond. You don't want too thin of a dough, but you don't want it so so tight that you're going to end up stretching it, because it'll shrink back on you. Just keep that in mind. Your dough should be pliable. It should be very nice and pliable. If it's not, you mismeasured something. It's either too dry or it's too cold to work with. So let it come to room temperature and kind of thaw it out a little bit. So I just put my pie on there. It looks pretty good. I'm a little short right there, so I'm gonna go one more, just. There we go. That is gorgeous. Okay, so now what you're gonna do is, this is why I love using this here, is you have a little bit that extra insurance, is we're gonna transfer our dough into our pie pan. The way we do that is take our rolling pin, roll very carefully our dough onto the pin, reposition our pie pan, kind of roll it on there. At this point, we do not want to stretch our dough, because all the stretching that you do to make it fit, it's going to shrink on you when you get it in that or in that oven. So you want it to relax, you want it to fit nicely in your pie pan. If you have to kind of reposition everything, do that. Again, don't stretch your dough. You want everything to just sit nicely in there. So I do have some extras that I'm going to cut off, but I'm going to show you how to crimp some things. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go grab my knife and I'm going to pull you closer so you can kind of see what I'm doing. So you do want to have this extra piece either cut off. You can use a paring knife, or you can use some shears, some kitchen shears. because we're not going to need all of that. We're going to need some of it, so don't cut too much. But you basically want to just cut around the edge of the pie so that it's right where the edge of the pie pan is. Now what we're going to do is called the wall. And we're going to kind of take this, we're going to fold that dough to kind of get that little, roll it over and fold it. Because we're going to take that, we're going to turn that into our crimp. If you have a little piece that's shorter, a little bit smaller, not as thick, take some of your excess that you cut off and kind of, you know, help that barrier. Alright, so your pie dough is pretty much ready to go. If you want to just bake it from this, you definitely can. Everything's all in place. But I'm going to make a little decorative. So I'm going to do two, or actually I'm going to do a couple. The first one is just an easy, simple crimp. Take your two fingers just like this, like the, you know, and then you take this finger and press it. And then you'll just walk around. Just like that. Now you could do what's called the scallop right there, which is a little bit farther. So instead of these two fingers, you're going to take this so it's essentially the same as the crimp, but it's a little bit more prominent. I actually kind of like this one better personally than the smaller crimp, but whatever you desire. Then we're also going to do what is called I'll do the wheat stock. So what you're going to do is you're going to come at this at a 45-degree angle. Let's see, we'll start here. And we're going to cut. And then we're going to take them and take the wheat stock opposite sides, just like that. And you want to kind of get yourself little points. It's nice for Thanksgiving pie. So there's your wheat stock right there. Personally, not my favorite because these become very fragile when they bake, so I tend to stay away from that. But I did want to show it to you. And the last one is the braided rope. And all you do is just take your thumb, side of your thumb, just like that. And you don't want it to go too far, so let's see. Side of your thumb, just like that. Very delicate, very simple. Unfortunately, whenever I have pies for Thanksgiving, it's my demo pie, so I always have like 12 different types of crimping on it so I can demo it, but hey, you know what? I don't have to bake pie for Thanksgiving now. There we go. So, you have the scallop, you have the crimped, you have the braided rope right there. So of those, hop in the kitchen and start baking pies. So once you have your pie all done, I like to go around and I like to kind of press everything against the wall. Again, don't stretch. Then you're going to prick your pie. Then we're going to pop it into the refrigerator, cover it with plaster wrap, pop it in the refrigerator for at least an hour before you want to bake it and fill it. This allows your dough to stretch, to keep from shrinking on you. It allows it to kind of harden up again. And if you were going to do a custard or like a meringue pie, what you would do is you do what's called a blind bake, which you would add some pie weight, aluminum foil down inside, some dried beans, bake it so you can start that baking process, because the meringue pie does not require to be baked in the oven. We are going to actually par bake ours because we're doing a custard, which is the pumpkin pie filling, and so that's going to require a par bake. So tomorrow what we're going to do, we'll pull our pies out, blind bake them for about 10 minutes till they start to get nice and golden. We fill them and then we bake them again, and we're going to cover the edges so the edges don't burn. So, very easy pie dough, gorgeous dough that we came from. It's pliable, it's not broken, it's not brittle, it's just gorgeous to work with. Very simple. There's no reason you shouldn't make it from scratch from now on, because it's even better than store-bought dough. See you in the kitchen.